Welcome to Breast Intentions, the podcast where we take off the bra of expectations and dive into honest, empowering conversations. We're your hosts, Nadine and Cynthia, two Canadian girls who swapped snow boots for flip-flops in the Cayman Islands. This is your space to feel seen, supported, and a little less alone. So grab a cup of coffee or a glass of champagne and get ready for your weekly handful of truth, wellness, and empowerment. Welcome back to Breast Intentions. This week on the podcast, we sit down with Anne-Marie McQueen, award-winning journalist and founder of Hotflash, Inc. With a 30-year career spanning health, wellness, and global reporting, she's the voice behind one of the most trusted menopause platforms today, reaching 55,000 plus women in over 40 countries. Together, we're shifting the menopause conversation away from doom and gloom and into the powerful, positive transition it truly can be. Welcome to the podcast. Today on the podcast, we have Anne-Marie McQueen from Hotflash, Inc. We are super excited to have you on the podcast today. We wanted to have you on the podcast because we feel like you have a little bit of a different take than what we are seeing all out there in the menoverse. And we want to dive a little bit deeper into that. So can you give us a little bit of your background and how you are where you are right now and why you call yourself a recovering journalist?
Well, I have been a journalist for, almost 30 years, and I've worked in North America and in the Middle East, and I had the worst perimenopause of all time. While I was having the worst perimenopause of all time, and I didn't know I was in perimenopause, I had been an editor for the first time, an arts and life editor and a features editor, and I just loved content, social media. We were using everything, starting to use video. And then when I realized I was in perimenopause, when I realized I didn't even know what perimenopause was, but I skipped a period. And so I did some Googling, and that's when I found out about perimenopause, and I felt really silly. So to learn about it for myself, I put a Google alert, and the Google alert was just bringing back brutal content, like just nothing I was interested in. And I just couldn't help but think there's just so much here. I can see now there's so much here, and I could see how things were already very polarized. This is probably like 2017, 2018. And I just started thinking I could do better than this. And then I just started learning more and more, and I thought I'll just do a newsletter. I think I'll do a newsletter. So that was 5 years ago, and I just launched with a newsletter and zero idea of what I was doing. And anyone I would tell about it who was in business or marketing didn't understand what I was doing, because newsletters are just for marketing. They're not for, they're not the product. So a fun thing is that I've seen all that content as the product develop, like the thing I was doing, other people around the world were doing, and now it's like Substack and everything. I've had a pretty big awakening since 2020, like a lot of people, and really see my profession for what it is and what it was. And I wasn't that way when I was in it. I always tried to write about alternative things and mainstream things and cast a wide net, but I found it very frustrating and stressful while I was a journalist. The stories I wanted to do just wouldn't be encouraged. And so now I just now I have my eyes open, and thankfully there are all these platforms where, we can do the thing we do, and other independent journalists can do it too. So that's kind of a nutshell of how I got here.
Right. So the stories weren't being encouraged because it didn't sell newspapers, or it wasn't interesting to the masses?
There's just so much of a commercial, background. There's just so many things at play, and there are so many narratives, right? So just a small example is I was put on the pill when I was 16, and I was on the pill until I was 28. This is a very controversial topic. It has helped a lot of people. It's, given us our freedom, but I felt deep in myself that the pill wasn't good for me, and it was doing things. I didn't know what, and there's no information around there. I went off of it at 28 and had a whole, bunch of stuff happen. And from there on, I always tried to write articles about it. I read every article. They always concluded with the pill is perfectly safe for you. My editors would never want a story on it. They'd say, well, who do you have? And I'd say, well, there's bloggers, because the bloggers, now we know, are the people who were in touch with it, and they were writing about it. But they'd say, oh, well, it's just bloggers, my editors. They let me do a lot of stories, but I look back and now I know what was going on, right? It was like, now it's
Yeah.
still controversial to talk about the pill, even though we have more and more information and more people talking about how it changes you and how it works. Like, we didn't even know how it worked, you know?
True.
So that's just one example, a shining example of where I just would always be frustrated and not understand the roadblocks that I was hitting. Commercial, things have to be commercially viable. Print and newspapers are
Yep.
dying for that very reason. But
Yeah. So is that then how the newsletter, was that Hotflash Inc? Is that how Hotflash Inc became to be, or was that even another
yeah,
story?
no, I just thought, okay, I just thought I'm just going to put out a newsletter. I just think I can do a great newsletter. And I remember that Gwyneth Paltrow put out Goop and she had 10,000 subscribers. And I thought, like, that's how I can start. It doesn't cost a lot of money. I didn't know anything about what I was doing. I had no idea about how I would make money. And it was never like a real concern because I just think I felt like I'm going to work it out. I just had a mission to do it. And then that's how I did it. I started with 200 people that I knew and were in my circle. I wish I had gone a lot bigger now that I think about it. I could have, but I was nervous.
Yeah.
And next year, Heidi Rock, who was with Become Clothing, that's not here anymore, she said, if you start a podcast, we'll sponsor it. So she sponsored the first 2 seasons of my podcast. So I have to blame her or thank her that I have a podcast. But I'm getting sponsors now that are coming to me. So that's pretty cool as well.
That's awesome.
And the podcast is called Hotflash Inc. And how many episodes do you have out now?
Oh, it's like 160 plus. And
Yeah.
I've been able to speak to, it's mostly interviews with experts. And then sometimes I do solo episodes, which feel like I'm just rambling, but people seem to really enjoy those. So I think I might do a
Yeah.
few more. But I just make sure I'm not interested. I mean, I have spoken. You'll see that I've spoken to some of the most popular voices. And I have to thank you for saying that you noticed that I'm not like everyone else, because in the beginning you're like, I'm not like everyone else. And then I started thinking,
Yeah.
I'm not like everyone else. So I've had a few of those big voices, but I don't really go after them because it's a very narrow view of menopause that
I
has
agree.
taken up the entire conversation. It's such a slice. And I live in the rest of the world, and I'm exposed to all of this other stuff. And so that what we see in media and social media is not all of it. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm just trying to show this. We have so many options, and women are making so many different choices, and there's so many different ways of looking at this. I think that's the space that I'm meant to be in.
And we are as well. And that was really the whole concept behind us starting the podcast too, was we both are going down completely different paths, both Cynthia and I. But our end goal when it comes to menopause, or perimenopause, is to just feel good. But we're both receiving information from everywhere. And we also have to make the proper decision on what it is that we want to do based off of where we currently are at as well. And so you have to learn how to weed out a lot of that noise and figure out, who do I believe and what is their motive behind what it is that they're saying as well.
I think this is, I say this is like the heroine's journey, but this call to be like this, to figure this out, this is also part of midlife, to start to take responsibility and not just trust that other people understand and will, make the right decisions for you. And I think women are asking a lot of questions and they're suspicious. The common thing you hear said over and over, I think I'll die if I hear it said again, is, the Women's Health Initiative study it was such a, and it created all this fear. And sure, it did. And it scared a lot of people off hormones. Really tragically, people who had surgical menopause were not given hormones. That's actually ended up, like, people have died from that. There's studies. But I don't think it's all down to a study in 2002 why hormone therapy uptake is so low now. There was a study that was presented to the Menopause Society, and it's like 5%, and it used to be much higher. And of course, we know there's lots of people who would like it to be much higher because we're repeat customers for the rest of our lives. That's the best kind of customer. But I think, your examples of people who are just like asking deeper questions. And someone who, a CEO of a company said to me this week, women don't want to jump on hormone therapy right away. Like, yes, we see people who are doing that, but in
they want to
reality,
learn. They want to
they want to
understand.
learn. They want to know what they're on. A friend of mine said to me, she just asked, she's doing fine, but she's not sleeping great. And she said to her doctor, like, what's going to happen to my body after menopause? And her doctor just said, we'll put you on hormone therapy. And no amount of questions revealed any other information. And she's like us, you know, she's just like, no, that's not going to be good enough. I don't think you understand why you're putting me on hormone therapy. That's what she's like.
Right?
I think you really understand.
True.
Yeah, exactly. There is a lot of doom and gloom out there, and that is one of the reasons we did want to have you on, is because you do talk about how it's not all doom and gloom, and there is a more positive side of things. Going back, can you tell us a little bit about your journey through perimenopause and menopause and how you've gotten to this more positive side of things?
Well, you know, I say that it seems pretty clear that what you bring to perimenopause informs how that experience might be for you. And so I brought a lot, you know, I brought chronic stress, childhood trauma not dealt with, a lifetime of sort of like, you know, first overeating, but then over exercising and whatever you call it when you're overly strict with yourself, with food and with everything, you know, overworking, just like I did all those things to try and control and manage anxiety. And then I hit early perimenopause. It all tracks now, but at the time I had no idea what was going on. So I moved overseas. I'd had gut issues, IBS, since I was 30. They just ramped up like crazy when I got here. No surprise. I moved by myself to Abu Dhabi with 5 suitcases, and I'm living in a hotel. And you know, so luckily I found a homeopath for that here, which is crazy because it was then homeopathy wasn't available for a long time, but I really like it. And then a couple of years later, like 40, 41, I just started having terrible anxiety. Like, and it's only in the fullness of time when you can look back and realize how bad things really were. Like I had gone into management. I was very paranoid. I wasn't sleeping. I was having really bad intrusive thoughts for several years. Like, you know, just terrible thoughts of things I had done that I hadn't done, things that were going wrong that hadn't gone wrong. And just such bad anxiety. I developed nightly nightmares that I was dying, a huge fear of flying. This all tracks with how, you know, in the early stages when we lose progesterone, it really messes with your resilience and stress response. And so I doubled down on everything. My gut issues again ramped up. I mean, it's like the whole perimenopause is like this, like, you know, you can just see like different things that were happening. And I was dealing with it all along, just out of the context of hormones, and sometimes in the context of hormones. Like no one said perimenopause to me, and I went to the emergency room for headaches and for chest pain once, and terrible headaches that I had for like tension headaches. A number of naturopaths. I had adrenal exhaustion, like all my eyelashes fell out, but big stuff was happening in my life too. And no one said, I don't remember anyone saying perimenopause to me, but also. Right. I was hoping to have, you know, settle down and have kids up until about 44 or 45, which didn't happen. So did I want to hear anything about my hormones? Like, did I hear it? I can't tell you. Like, I think denial is one of the first. Menopause.
Right.
Yeah. So along the way, I dealt with a lot of stuff, not knowing what was going on. You know, I had 4 years of talk therapy. And then once I found out I was in perimenopause and I wrapped my head around it, everything got better. I had a big life explosion at 48, 47, I think. And that was really tough, as many of us do. You know, life kind of can bring you to your knees. But it went on for a long time. Like, I didn't go through menopause until 50. I guess it's been almost 2 years since I went through menopause. I just turned 55. So there was just so many like phases to it. After COVID, I was in the later stages, but man, I had estrogen coursing through my veins. My breasts were really sore. I was dating like crazy. Like, I would drive up to Dubai to date a guy. I was like, yeah. When they talk about low estrogen, I'm like, I did not have low estrogen. I have all sorts of energy for all sorts of things. Yeah, that was fun. I had more fun in like 51 to 53 than most people, do. So I don't know. So then I went through, and it's very stormy. Like that year, I think we need to talk more about the transmenopausal year, the year that it's a term that's kind of only used in bone health and in some another thing that I can't remember right now, but it's referring to that 12 months before, the 12 months go without a period until you've gone through menopause. That was like a Dorothy in the house, upside down Wizard of Oz type crazy time, in a different way than it was at the beginning of perimenopause. And now things have just really settled down, and I feel certainly just so many things. It hasn't been easy. Like I just feel so much more like myself. I have much sharper intuition. I've gotten rid of I've had sort of an awakening during this time too. Not sort of, I have, but different friends, people are not in my life. I cannot stand being around like bullshit. I don't know. Can I swear? I can't stand being yeah, there's just, I don't have a lot of patience for that kind of stuff. Things are deeper, they're richer. And I really hate this sort of being trash talked this time, because this is like, I mean, if I had known that this was waiting, and it apparently just gets better. So yeah, that's how I feel about it. I think this is an incredible thing to have happen. Yeah, and my people pleasing, the relationships I have with people. I lost my father last year, and that just has been like one of the hardest things. But also, since then, there's a growing up when you lose your last parent too, and it's all just sort of dovetailed. I can't really even separate it all out, but I'm more me than I ever have been.
Which is that's great awesome to hear, because that's been my biggest, not complaint, but my biggest thing that I say is, when I first started going through perimenopause, I was like, I don't know what's wrong with me, but I'm not me. I can't explain it. And if you're not going through it, you won't get it. But it's just, I'm not myself, and I know myself, and I know what I expect of myself, or I know what I can do. And this is just throwing me for a loop. So to hear you now say, like, I feel more like myself, sounds amazing. Hopefully.
Coming out on the other side of it. Yeah.
I know that feeling. That's just, it's a very unstable time, and you're just not telling people how unstable you feel, because it sounds crazy, right? Like it's just
and also, like, for me at least, I don't want to speak for other people, but for me it feels like if I admit that I'm not myself, like it won't show me as strong or capable, and so I'm not going to admit that. I'm going to just keep that hidden, I guess. So that's a part of it too, which isn't helpful.
Especially for people who are in superior positions as well, right? And so you have people that are looking up to you, and you have to kind of filter what it is that you're going to say and who you're going to say it around, and that kind of thing too. And very similar for me as well. And I would say where I ended up going through the toughest time was through the anxiety as well. And just the weird thoughts, and at nighttime when you're trying to go to bed, all of a sudden you have this thought that comes into your head of what you should have said to someone 6 years ago that said something to you. And all the things you now want to say, and that's like been stewing inside you for however long. But I had a client as well where she was saying that she struggled for 10 years and she thought that she had a brain tumor. And because she just could not seem to grasp like why she was feeling the way that she did.
Yeah.
And then she ended up going down the route of HRT and completely changed her life.
I mean, you hear this. That's why I'll never say a thing against hormone therapy. I'm super sensitive to hormones, so I have tried in different ways, and I just don't think it's for me. It's like I have a real extreme reaction, but I have good friends that have had their things just turn around in a positive way. But I think it's so difficult when, this is something I still struggle with though, saying I'm not okay, or I can't do something, like that's still something. When my father died, I knew I'm terribly, terribly sad, and I didn't feel like doing anything. And all I could do was go to work and come home and lay under the weighted blanket that I had bought for myself. Like that's all I could manage, but I couldn't even say it. And people forget after a very short time.
Yeah.
And now even coming out of it, I'm like, why didn't I just say I'm grieving? Like I like that's like I
Yeah.
had such a good excuse. So
It is a very good excuse, and people would understand.
yeah, that part is always very hard. You just never want to. And I think when you're going through it and you're feeling a bit crazy, let's just face it, it's very hard to say. And I think the conversation about workplace always sort of it gets boiled down to hot flashes, or I don't know, feeling physically uncomfortable. But I know when I was in management, like difficult situations or difficult people, it just like really hooked me. And then I would ruminate about it for a really long time. And I would like have all these crazy thoughts about how to deal with it. Or I would call a meeting and I would just feel like super paranoid with everyone looking at me.
Right? Yeah.
I have no idea what it seemed like. That's definitely been part of it. I think, I don't know if we could know when we're going in that this anxiety part of it, I mean, like that part of the conversation is really helpful lately because people are talking about it. Because if you kind of hit a wall, I was working I had a booth at a women's health day here in Dubai, and this like sweet, like late 30s girl wandered past, like her husband and her baby were off. And she said, like, her voice was quivering. She's like, I can't sleep. And I just feel like I'm so anxious. And I was like, I wanted to hug her. Like, I just thought, maybe some progesterone. And but just think, like I compare perimenopause as these hormones recede and the estrogen rises and falls and the progesterone is receding. I compare it to the beach, sadly, in this world, after the tide's gone out, a dirty beach, and you would have to go around and start picking up the garbage. So some of the stuff is real that's coming up, like some of it is stuff. The stuff you said from 6 years ago, I think your estrogen protected you from like whatever happened at the time. And it's all in us, right? So it's not surprising to me that these things are coming up. It's just how we choose to deal with them. And the most important thing is that that it's happening. And so,
Right.
Yeah.
I just felt like I was going crazy on my own. And that's the woman, also as women, we just never want to be seen as crazy, right? Because that's the stereotype.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Is that we're crazy, we're difficult, we can't be counted on. So I really think that's what stops us from being vulnerable about it. Men have their own thing.
Definitely. I think so too. Yeah. Yeah. I also like how you said that, even going through perimenopause and transitioning into it, like it is this up and down, and it's not like, oh, I'm in perimenopause. I've realized that I'm now taking my hormones. I'm good to go. No, not likely. Like there will be still some ups and downs because our hormones are kind of going crazy at the moment. So I think that's important to acknowledge as well.
And it's a transition, transitions are difficult. Like I'm
Yeah.
transitioning right now, probably out of the job I'll have, that's my hope, into full-time doing Hotflash and being an entrepreneur. And that is terrifying to me. And it's crazy upsetting. And it was a transition. Remember when you left school and then you started working? Like that was a really hard transition for me. I remember falling asleep at my desk because I wasn't used to getting up in the morning, and I would buy 2 Tim Hortons coffees. I would bring them to work and sleep in my car at noon. I've been bartending till 2 a.m. Like that went on for a long time. It's not the same thing, but these are all they're not easy. Transitions are not easy. This is just the mother of all of them. And my hope is that we can get, if you can get some of this stuff organized when you're in your 30s, some of your trauma dealt with, some of your bad habits, being more thoughtful instead of just throwing, I was just talking to my best friend about supplements because I was taking a supplement that made me feel really unwell. And I said, I'm going to cut right back on supplements. This is ridiculous. My dad used to say when I visited him, this is not healthy. Like this can't be healthy, what you're bringing with you. And she said, me too. I'm cutting right back. And I think maybe my age, Gen X, and maybe millennials, we kind of, supplements became a bigger thing or a more widespread thing. And so it's just a way of grabbing and trying to fix and heal. And that's a habit I have to let go of too. So I think if you're younger and you can get straight about some of this stuff, it would be a lot easier.
Well, yeah, because there is a lot of talk about supplements out there too. And no, you must be on this supplement. You must be on this supplement. You must be on this supplement. So, which isn't true for everybody, but if you're like, "Oh, that's me. I'm in perimenopause. I'm that age. I need to take this supplement." And you try and you're like, "Well, I don't really notice a difference." Because it might not be the supplement that you need just because somebody on
Well,
social media said you need it.
exactly. And I think that that's what it goes back to. What we were talking about earlier is you really have to pay attention to who you're listening to and also
Yes.
understand their motives behind, because they're usually selling you their own product, right?
Yes.
And, or they have some kind of tie to something. And the amount of times that I've heard someone say, well, I heard this person on Instagram, or I heard this person on whatever it is, and they said that I needed this. And I'm like, well, they didn't say that they needed it, but they were kind of talking to their audience. And I'm like, but you may not. Like, that's just a general comment.
There's
So,
so much on social media. The more I do this, the less I understand, basically, and the harder it is to make statements and state things. And so that's what makes statements is stating things. I don't know why I said it like that, but that's pretty redundant. Okay, so the hard part is to be certain, and that's why certainty drives me nuts. There's just a very thin understanding, like people who are talking to you about like stopping cortisol from spiking, or people who are creating fear about anything, hormone therapy
yeah,
or a supplement or
food.
food. People who
Yeah.
are suggesting you eat a lot of a certain food, I find that really strange too. That's not good for you. And many supplements, due to our own genetic makeups, don't sit with us right. So I always say to people, although I sometimes don't take this advice myself, whatever you add, keep a journal. I can't take turmeric. I can't take ashwagandha. Those are things that people say, take it, take it, and and you get this sense that, oh, you'll take the supplement and then you're just going to be covered for that thing. And I don't
Yeah.
think it's simple at all. And it just makes
No.
me, and in the menopause space, there's a lot of coaches, and it is really helpful. And I think there's a lot of coaches who know what they're doing. But sometimes when there's fear, people are using fear and extreme certainty.
Right.
It's just, it makes me nervous. It makes me nervous for someone who's feeling the way I did, and then sort of gets grabbed and starts making decisions that maybe they wouldn't want to make later on when
Right.
they were more clear-headed.
No, that's one of the things that we love about you and the messages that you bring is that, there is the fear mongering out there and we don't want to fall for that. And to, take that information in with a grain of salt, and make your own choices.
Yeah. Can I just say too that I've sat on some panels, and there's just some people who don't know very much. And it's like repeating sort of the same top line, but they're presenting themselves
Right.
as knowing a lot. And this is something I'm seeing a lot. I saw it again this week on a call. I saw it at a summit we had here. It just makes me really nervous. Like in every field, there's people who are in it to win it, and those kind of people like are really charismatic and maybe beautiful. But I don't. I'm not talking about doctors. I'm just talking in general. Like this is something that I notice. There's certain things that people say where I just kind of go, oh, really? Like repeating the line about the Women's Health Initiative study to me is like kind of a sign. It just feels like such a, like, I don't know what the right word is. It's just a signal of like an old sort of relying on a couple of chestnuts to sort of keep the conversation around here. And there's an echo chamber too, right? Like there is a,
Yeah.
and the top level discussion, there's quite an echo chamber, and it's pretty pharmaceutical. So I'm just joking. Like I just wrote a newsletter that said I'm the heterodox like menopause person, and it's not going to get me on Oprah, but I got a couple of you. So
Well, you're on Breast Intentions, so close enough.
I'm so excited, and there's a big space for us, right? Way bigger space than people think. So I love what you guys are doing too. I noticed you, and when you asked me to come on, I was like, yeah, I like what they're doing.
Yeah, and we love what we're doing. Like we love this. We learn something new every conversation. We're always so excited, and when we leave the conversations because it's empowering, and so we're wanting to pass that on to our listeners.
So cool.
Yeah.
And
So there
I
is
think,
a lot of. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Nadine.
no,
Yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. I was gonna go to my next question.
Yeah, sure.
You go. No, you go. No, you're good.
Yeah, I've forgotten it. Go ahead.
Oh, that happens
That's why
too.
you're like, no, you go.
It's
Sorry.
there, but it doesn't last very long.
Yeah, it's here in the corner. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've also noticed that you've called out some of the absurd wellness advice that gets thrown out there. Like there was one about the toe strength being a predictor of longevity and strength.
Look, yeah. Did you finish?
Yeah.
I didn't want to.
That's okay. So yeah, that was one example, but there are quite a few. Why do you think that women in midlife are being bombarded with this kind of information?
Okay. First of all, that was Peter Attia talking about toe strength. It's true, right? Like if you don't have strong toes, if you don't have toes, you're going to fall over.
Yeah, you can fall over, right?
Yeah, my uncle lost his toe. He was a farmer, and I think about it all the time. Like, did he have trouble walking? Like I was a little kid. I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
But grip strength, these things are indicative. But what I get really tired of is someone like Peter Attia just sort of sitting there and saying, she talking about us in this way, and it just feels like it's piling on. And I think what's going on, there was one like Vonda Wright went on the Mel Robbins
arm
podcast.
veins.
They're getting way. Oh, okay. Yeah, that was a ridiculous carousel post about the real flex these days is 6 arm veins, bulging arm veins, and something else. And I was like, I cannot. None. Like I have not a bulging. I have no veins.
And it was in the message. It was in with what was it? It was all along the lines of perimenopause or menopause, like and having the arm veins is another measure of how well you're going to go through it. I think.
Well, yeah, also how ripped you are.
I think so. Yeah.
People are ripped, right? And it's lift heavy. The narrative, okay, it's a narrative. There's not 11 full push-ups. Dr. Vonda Wright who has been on my podcast, went on Mel Robbins' podcast and said, you need to do 11 full push-ups. And Mel Robbins said, on your knees. And she said, nope, like full push-ups. Well, it's just ridiculous. Someone has gone and tracked back what she's talking about. And there's some slight evidence there, but we all know that doing something is better than doing nothing. Mm-hmm. And to say you have to do these specific things is so disheartening. Yeah. I believe that we have been facing this kind of thing all along. There's a bar right in front of our face and you will never get to it. And whether it was the cool girls in high school or the menopause flexing, whatever they have at their disposal, we're never going to get there. And it's the best way to keep us always yearning and striving, because then we're going to buy and stretch and be malleable, because we're not going to understand ourselves. Lift heavy. There's not, I had a really smart, can you see all the just on my podcast is coming up? Stuart Phillips, he's a fellow Canadian out of McMaster University. His favorite comment was, it's largely bullshit. Like he's taking this stuff on in his Instagram profile, and it's like, of course you can get strong lifting smaller weights. I mean, I saw a couple of trainers targeting midlife, making fun of Tracy Anderson and showing a video of Tracy Anderson. She's Gwyneth Paltrow's trainer. Mm-hmm. And they're like talking about how it doesn't work and heavy. She doesn't know that heavy, you have to lift heavy. And I'm looking at Tracy Anderson, who is ripped, bulging with these muscles. And I want to say, this is a farce. Like, what are you even trying to say? Like, obviously she's got tons of muscle in her body. So I just feel all of these things it's the same thing it's always been. And you're just like, oh, I'll do this. No, I'll do this. And it's food, it's exercise, it's hormone therapy, it's every single thing. And I just can't do it anymore. And it's messed me up. I'm covering all these things and I've gotten really messed up about it. And Dr. Maria Luke, who's on my expert panel, and she's also now coaching with Respin, Halle Perry's platform. She made a video and said, it's paralyzing women. And I heard her and I love her. She's so reasonable. And I thought, yeah, it's paralyzing me because I used to love to do a trampoline class. And then I would do F45 and then I would go for a walk and then I would do yoga. And isn't that all better than me just like thinking I need to lift so heavy when I'm not
Agreed.
feeling great? And so
Yeah.
I just, can we all just know about this invisible bar that's just new ways to make us feel inadequate so that we'll never get there in that, whatever that invisible body's eyes. I don't know if I sound paranoid when I say that, but that's how it feels to me.
No, because I think that there's so many people that can relate to what it is that you're saying. You're just saying it out loud.
Yeah, that Peter Attia thing made me really mad. That was the toe strength made me the maddest because sort of his tone and yeah, it set me off.
Well, and I can see why, like, my response to that is like, I've never even heard it. But I also, I'm very much in the space of like eating psychology and nutrition, and like that's my full-time job. And I help people silence a lot of that noise.
Right.
And so I do. But when you have to be in a space of hearing these things and learning about these things so that you can report on it and you can write about it, it must freaking absorb like into you and just like anger you to no end by hearing these things.
I think that's the reaction I had. And, I had a lot of body image issues and I've always been a sort of a curvy person, fit, but curvy. And in my late 40s, I came across this woman, Danae Mercer. She's a body shame, overcoming body shame influencer. She's got over 2 million followers, but she was editing Women's Health at the time. And I was doing some work and I crossed paths and she asked me to write an essay about it. And I was a chubby kid who got teased and I wrote about it. And from her, I really learned how to love my body. But that was at the same time as the healthy at any size movement, and it was very helpful. But now they're saying the healthy at any size movement might have been some psyop or I don't know. And now it's like you can't have an extra pound on you, even though I saw a video the other day saying sometimes you do need a little bit of extra weight in menopause in your belly because that creates estrogen. It's just never ends. It just never. I found I was getting like my resurgence of that food chatter you talk about, the not liking my body. Like I can't, and I don't want other people to. We've been through so much,
Right.
So what do you do full time?
I coach from down here. We both live in the Cayman Islands.
Oh, amazing. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so internationally, I coach women, usually high-level executives. And I actually do DNA testing as well.
Oh, amazing. Okay.
Yeah, with a company out of North Van. DNA Power.
Okay.
And so we basically deliver, after you've done your test, we basically deliver about a 250-page report of your DNA. And I'm the person that helps you, like I read it to you, basically, and I help you kind of uncover. So there's a lot of stuff right now with the use of HRT or just understanding your hormones, because we can test to see, if a person does want to use HRT or if a guy wants to use TRT, I can actually tell you if you're going to like move it through your system too fast, if you're going to
that MTHFR or the
that one, that one as well, we can tell. And then there's some other ones as well with hormones. It's very, very cool.
This is an interesting part about the conversation that doesn't get covered at the top level, is that for some people, it's not the greatest idea to go on hormone therapy. And I think, I'm working on a course that I'm going to do in the fall, but definitely, and I'm working on a digital tool about hormone therapy where there's some tests you should do before you go on hormone therapy. You never hear anyone say that, right?
Yeah. Even with the DNA testing that I can see, it's not necessarily something that I would say to a person that you absolutely cannot. We would have to watch a person. So basically, I can see where you're sitting from a DNA level, but then when you're working with a doctor, it would be more of a conversation to them, especially a lot of people in Canada, is like, you need to see your doctor after about 2 weeks, after about 8 weeks, and then continue to keep on going until you can find the right level for you, because you might be an over-converter or an under. So those things need to be watched rather than here's your HRT, come and see me in a year, kind of thing. And then that's what ends up happening with people is they don't feel that it was right for them or they didn't feel good on it because they didn't have the proper support. So I don't know if you saw on any of our, was it last week that we had Angela on? There's a woman named Angela Johnson, and she's out of Toronto, and she has a platform. She used to work for IBM. She has a platform called Sano Living. Mm-hmm. You need to look at it.
Okay.
It's basically an all-in-one platform as a woman going through perimenopause or menopause where you can sign up and you have full access to a doctor, a naturopath, and a coach to guide you through your whole menopause journey.
Wow.
And and so her whole thing is actually to put it in front of corporations so that corporations can buy it and help all of their female employees transition and not actually lose them in the workplace.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, you need to
doctor. Yeah.
Yes, you need to chat with her and look at what it is that she's doing. So,
well, I also worry with hormone therapy. I really worry about people still drinking a lot and not not making lifestyle changes, and just the hormone therapy makes you feel better. So I just do think that part of the garbage on the beach we need to clean up is some food and lifestyle things. So that is something that makes me worry a little bit. Not that I'm saying that it's a huge risk. It's just you are adding hormones. And if you've got a highly toxic lifestyle, I feel like, it's something to think about.
Right. For sure.
That's just the conversation just reminded me, Anne Marie, of something that I saw a post that you had put out a while ago that was something along the lines of if menopause, if the perimenopause menopause transition was just about hormones, we would all be going through it the same. And it's not. Like there is all this other stuff. Like you had mentioned in the beginning about stress and childhood trauma, and all of this stuff does also impact it, like alcohol or diet can also impact it. So it's not just about hormones.
No, exactly. And women who live in impoverished neighborhoods, there's just a new study that they go through menopause 2 years earlier. We know earlier menopause is, a risk factor for diseases when you get older. I've boiled it down most recently. It's taken me 5 years to get here, where it's like one question you have to ask yourself is, do I believe that the recession of hormones causes the problem? And that is the medical view, is that, and they just focus on estrogen, you're estrogen deficient, and will correct the estrogen deficiencies. And even the most forward-thinking doctors I've talked to still will say that. Or does the recession of hormones reveal the problems, like the garbage on the beach, the trauma, autoimmune that may have been in the background, all sorts of things come to the surface? I have to say I believe the second one. And the thing is, if you believe what you want to believe, but there's a lot more evidence and common sense explanations for the second than for just saying, hey, whoever created men and women just gave men, it's okay, but we tap out at 50 and we're, it's just like we have to fix this. If you believe that it reveals the problem, hormone therapy is still completely available to you. I just think it's a much more truth way of approaching it than believing that you're correcting something that must be corrected. To me, that's reality, and I would want to go about it in knowing reality. And the other, saying hormones are the problem and that we're estrogen deficient, it's not correct. It's not correct. So it's very compelling when you hear people talk about it, and some very knowledgeable people believe that to be true, but that's what doctors are taught in medical school. Right. And so, I just saw the recovering and this anesthesiologist, and she's treating women in menopause, and she's like a recovering journalist, right? Like she's questioning her what she was taught. So it feels weird to go up against or to sort of question that narrative, but I get it. It's very tidy, it's a very tidy narrative. And if you just believe it, then you don't have all the other complications. But there's, as you know, women Ayurvedic practitioners, homeopathy, traditional Arabic and Islamic medicine, traditional Chinese medicine. These modalities all do very well with women in menopause, and they don't have anything to do with
Yeah.
hormones.
We had,
Right.
we are having a naturopath that we're going to be featuring on the show. And the whole podcast was actually about mycotoxins and how when you have toxins in your body, they can present as perimenopause and menopause symptoms.
Yeah.
So it's also looking at a much broader range than slapping the word menopause on someone that is showing a certain symptom when you actually haven't looked into it more and actually see that it's something else.
It's so tricky, right? Because we know people who have
Yeah.
done so well with hormones, and then it also can be a band-aid for something deeper going on. And I just want everyone to sort of
Yeah.
realize that. The other thing is there's so many things that haven't been looked at that should be. We have so few studies on menopause, and they're often focused on hormone therapy. And only,
Yeah.
even that study that went to the Menopause Society about the uptake of hormone therapy last fall, it had to be estrogen containing hormone. That was considered hormone therapy. Well, that to me, there's women on progesterone, there's women on testosterone, pregnenolone, DHEA. These are helpful, but they're not considered hormone therapy, really, but they are. And I also, I got obsessed with fascia like 20 years ago when no one else was obsessed with it. And I wrote an article for the Ottawa Sun when I was in Canada. Well, the what we've learned in that 20 years is insane. Fascia is like 20% of our body. That's what people are saying now. It plays a huge role in all of our processes. And so, it's just, people are just talking about it now with perimenopause. But to me, that certain medical narrative is just like, it's sort of, it doesn't really work because there's just so much that's left out of it. It's something. And the obsession with estrogen is always perplexing.
I'm going to kind of wrap things up with a couple of fun questions for you, just so that our listeners can learn a little bit more about you. What's something that you believed about menopause before going through it that turned out to be totally wrong?
Oh, I thought it was gross. I thought it was gross. I would be gross. I thought older women were gross. It's just like, I just thought all of it was like, ugh. So, I found out that's not true because here I am and I don't think I'm gross, so that's just awful of me to think. But I think when you're young, you sometimes feel sorry for older people like I did. I just, you don't get.
Oh, yeah, I did too. Yeah.
Right? You just sort of think while I'm young,
Yeah.
it's the most important thing. And then you have to get older to realize all the benefits of it and realize that you're pretty ridiculous when you're young and naive anyway. So, yeah, that was awful that I thought that. No wonder I didn't want to through it.
Right. And what is one wellness trend that you've tried or refused to try?
Okay. I do tape my mouth closed at night.
Oh, Cynthia does that too. Do you
don't know
do
if
that, Cynthia?
No, I don't.
Oh, I thought you
I haven't
did.
tried it. No, we've had guests on that do.
Oh, sorry, I thought you did.
One of my best friends does. I've never tried it.
Ridiculous. It's ridiculous, but a friend from public school, I was talking about it with her. She has 3 boys. They're all athletes that they tape their mouths. And she said, I haven't read that book by Matthew Walker, the sleep book, but he mentioned that also it stops you from getting up to go to the bathroom in the night. And that is true. And I do feel much more alert and wide awake. And I knew I was an open mouth sleeper because my mouth was dry. And definitely, I believe the evidence about breathing through your nose. So that's something that I tried that I can't stand that I do, but I do. I know. The weighted vest. The weighted vest.
Oh, yes.
I'm not doing it.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone was wearing the weighted vest. All the big doctors were wearing it. And I'm so embarrassed at the look of it. I'm sorry if you guys have a weighted vest. I don't know if you do.
Nope.
I just saw it.
No, one of my friends yesterday was just telling me that she goes for a walk and puts on her weighted vest. But I've never tried it.
And now I have to wear a weighted vest. Like, that's crazy. And then I was thinking, I got to get a weighted, you get these things like, oh, I guess I got to do this now, like it's like, you don't even make a decision. It's like your brain sort of takes it in, which is what's so dangerous sort of about being in the social space. Thankfully, I have a good friend. He's he was formerly a boxer, and he's a huge fitness guy, and he'll go out walking in the summer in 50-degree heat with his weighted vest. And he was stopped by the police because I think they thought he was he was stopped by the police. He had to take off his shirt on the side of the road. It caused a huge, and he's an Irish guy. It was like the funniest story I've ever heard. I can't stop laughing. If I had driven by, I would be laughing so hard at him standing there with his shirt on. He said cars came up and went, like unmarked cars, because we were in the Middle East. So and then I had this thought, I don't have to wear a weighted vest. I don't want anyone to think that I'm, some sort of suicide bomber. Like, this is amazing. And then the information started coming out that the science is really thin on those. We have a different center of gravity. It's not really building muscle. These things, and then it just, you sort of see this over and over. And I wish you could just catch it and just think, like, I'm going to do that from now on. But I didn't wear a weighted vest, and I won't be wearing a weighted vest. I think they're ridiculous. And also, I don't want to get arrested.
Yeah, exactly. Now, if you had to ban one midlife cliche, what would it be?
Oh, that's a really good one. If I had to ban one midlife cliche,
we probably have covered a couple of these through.
Well, we're getting
What's that?
older. It's just we're getting older.
Yeah.
Like, I recently had my blood pressure spiked, but I had extreme stress. And I've just been to my doctor, who's like a really cool GP homeopath. But I had gone to another doctor in Abu Dhabi, and he said, well, you're 55 and you're getting older like this. And she was so mad because she just thought, and when I hear my friends say, we're all getting older, it's just a way of like, it's sort of crapping on ourselves. I know we're getting older, but it's like, when you hear people say, oh, my knees, wear and tear, and we're getting older. I know it happens, but I don't like it. And I think it harms us because other things are improving. And maybe call me a Pollyanna, but I don't want to talk about my body that way. I don't want her to listen. I want her to hear good things.
Good for you. Well, this was a great conversation. Now, for anyone that wants to sign up for your newsletter, find out more about you, I also saw that you offer one-on-one coaching as well. How can they find you?
Probably my website, hotflashinc.com. And I have so they can go there and you can get to Substack, you can get to my podcast, you can book a one-on-one with me. I'm not a doctor or an expert or even a coach, but I have such a broad view that I could really help you figure out how to cut through some of the questions that you have. And I could do some extra research and follow up. I have a big year. I'm going to do. I have a digital tool coming out about a hormone therapy that's just looking at all of the stuff. It's going to be like a primer, sort of video PDF. I'm still working it out, and then I'm going to do the Hot Flashing Summit in September, and then offer a course. So I know that there's a lot of summits. I know there's a lot of courses, but there aren't in this space where you can be pretty sure that when you come out of it, you'll have an understanding of what the narratives are, where the gaps are in common sense, and what's going on. And then you can make your own decision, because that's always my thing, is that this is the time that we need to make our own decisions.
Is the summit in Abu Dhabi?
No, it's going to be online.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay.
I should say that part.
Online. Okay. Perfect. Well, Cynthia, I'll let you close it off.
Well, I think I might have a little girl crush because this was such an informative conversation. I almost don't want to let you go. Because it was so informative and so fun. To hear all this amazing stuff, and from somebody who's gone through it and who has all of this access to all the information. So thank you so much for joining us today. And maybe this won't be the last time.
Hopefully not.
Talk again.
Hopefully not.
Thank you.
Good.
We're expat.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. I loved it. Thanks for joining us on Breast Intentions. We hope you felt seen, supported, and maybe had a few laughs along the way. Don't forget to share, subscribe, rate, and review us. Your support keeps the conversation alive. Follow us on social media for more insights, behind-the-scenes fun, and updates on future episodes. Got a topic you want us to dive into? We'd love to hear from you. Remember, life's too short for bad bras, toxic relationships, and kale you don't actually like. So until next time, stay bold and keep your breast intentions exactly where they belong, front and center. Now go crush midlife, or at least today's to-do list. Cheers!